Hey folks, it is the Nutty Knife Guy. Saturday instead of Sunday because it's going to rain tomorrow. And I managed to have enough time for Saturday to do this on Saturday. 2 weeks ago, I did a video comparing the Cold Steel Luzon with the Cold Steel Spartan, and in a matchup to decide which one would be best for me to carry every day. Now, I had planned to carry them both in rotation, but I wanted to see which one. The idea was to determine which one was overall better. And as it turned out, the Spartan won hands down, because the Luzon I had at the time had a lock failure that resulted in an ouchie. I don't know if that scar is going to be permanent, but I'm going to have it for a while. I was a little bit less than careful and had my thumb in the wrong place when I was doing the spine wrap test, and the subsequent failure did me harm. So, I returned the Luzon that failed. I had purchased it from the Cold Steel Amazon store, so it came through Amazon, but it did come from Cold Steel, not another seller, third-party seller. So it was the Cold Steel Amazon store, which made the return pretty easy. And I had a replacement within a couple of days. And so far, the replacement has done all right. Of course, one of the first things I did when I got the replacement out of the box is give it a spine whack test, this time without damaging myself. And it passed. And now over the last few days that I've had this, I've had it for about 5 days. No, it's probably going more on like a week. I have done the spine wrap test repeatedly. I'm guessing in the neighborhood of 100 times. And the lock has held every time. So I'm having some confidence in this knife. But given the absolute failure of the first Luzon that I sent back, I am still a little leery about the lock. So this is what I'm going to do. Here in a minute, I am going to clear off a space on my table here, just enough so I can do the spine wrap top in front of test in front of you guys. I'm going to do it 5 times in rapid succession. Then I'm going to do it 5 times where I do the spine wrap, close the knife, open it back up, do the spine wrap, repeat that 5 times. Then I'm going to go out and do the normal roar posting stuff, and then I'm going to do the same test with wrapping the spine 5 times in succession, then doing the opening and close spine wrap 5 times. If this knife handles all of that, then I will declare this operational, and the other Luzon I had was just shit happens at the factory. Now, shit happens at the factory. There's no doubt about it. You know, there are gaps in quality control, machining, the machines aren't set just right, whatever. Now, the thing of it is, if it doesn't happen just right with a mousetrap, no big deal. The mousetrap doesn't work. Or if it doesn't get just right with a toaster, usually no big deal. Toaster doesn't work. Lock fails on a knife like this, people could lose digits. So the moral of that story is do the spine wrap test. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to do it here for you in a second. At least 5 times, open and close it, and hit the spine just to make sure you're locking. I don't care what kind of locking mechanism it is. Now, slip joints don't have a lock, don't worry about that. But if it's a triad lock, an axis lock, a wing ding, a ding ding, a what lock, liner lock, whatever, do the spine wrap test, make sure your lock works if you lick your fingers. So with that, I'm going to see if I can get you oriented so you can see this happen. Got to move one of the buoys here so I have a little wrapping space. let's see here. Okay. First, just a fine whack, get it open. Taking careful note of where my fingers are. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we had a failure after 5. Okay, let's see. And it's failing again. This is the new knife, folks. We might not go out to the war post today. Open it again and get it to lock. Okay, we had 5 successions there, so we will open it and we will close it and give it 5, because that one failure after doing it like that, okay, I can kind of sort of live with that, just knowing that you have to be careful. Okay, so that's actually not too shabby. I still don't like the failure, but we will go on with the testing. Okay, it is closed. It is open. 1. We're going to close it. We're going to open it. 2. Closed. We're going to flip it open this time. And that was a failure on the flip. Let's see if we can... Okay, it held that time. And I think what might be happening here, and I'm going to test this, I think it might be coming down with it this way instead of that way, sideways, and disengaging the lock, in which case that's not the knife's fault. Let's see if that's the case. You know, it just might be rapid succession, the lock fails. Okay. That was 4, I believe. We'll call it 3 though. Okay, now I'm just going to do this last one a little harder than I have been to see if it's just me being a little bit harder on my swing to get it to fail. That helps if I hit the table. Yeah, a really hard wrap seems to get it to fail. We'll test that again. I'm going to do this pretty hard. Yeah. So now, got it open. Now let's see if it's just, if I just do it not quite as hard. Yeah, when this lock was failing, I was really coming down. I'm not a machine, so my strength level when I was swinging down isn't consistent. So the ones that were failing were probably were almost definitely the ones, now that I look back on it. We'll try it one more time and I'll really come down just to make sure. Yeah, I'm coming way up and way down to get it to fail. Okay, now one more time with just a lighter wrap. Not a light wrap, but a light wrap. Yeah. These are, I'm swinging, when it's failing, I'm going way up, I'm really coming down on it. So, I mean, I would feel better about it if it didn't do that. But under normal usage, I don't think this lock will fail. And now we're going to try this extra safety they have on it. I'll do a really hard whack and see how that works. Okay, let's do 3 more. Okay, with the lock again, I'm doing Captain Caveman swings here. And it is designed with a lock, so maybe you should use the lock. Alright, so it does take a lot of force to get this to close, even without the lock engaged. It was solid all 5 times using the extra safety. So I am not going to say this was a failure, I'm going to say this was a weakness. Liner locks aren't as strong as triad locks. They're not as strong as axis locks. But with this safety, this knife is safe to use in my opinion. Now, we're going to go out there and war post it, knock it around some, and then we'll do the test again in the wrap-up, the same testing. But the moral of that story is, and I'm going to do that one more time just for thoroughness' sake, no safety, a very forceful whack. Okay, that was no safety and it held. Let's try that again. And it held again. So it does take considerable force to get this to fail. And sometimes it doesn't fail. With any lock, you don't trust the lock. Okay. A locking mechanism is no substitute for not being an idiot and being safely using your knife. So there's that. Right now, at this point, knowing what I know, knowing its limitations, I wouldn't have a problem carrying this knife because I will use it within its limitations. War post incoming. Let's do the 4-foot drop test. At least that's about 4 feet. A little lopsided. Didn't quite bite so well. Okay, well. That's not bad. I hope you guys are seeing all of this. One more time. Straight down, straight and true. If I drop it, straight and true. And she goes in there a pretty good ways. Now, see if I can get you focused on what's left of my hostile box. As you can see, it's been doing good service for me. Okay, yeah, you're seeing that. Okay, that actually went through 2 layers of cardboard. Because it had a reinforced bottom. So, alright. So far so good. What do you say? Now that it's done that, we'll do a couple of more spine whacks. Okay, this is no safety engaged after whacking it around a bit. Okay, that's 5 modern ones. Let's try to see if it'll take a little harder. I'm coming down there pretty hard. And it's holding without the safety. So, you know, maybe those other ones were just anomalies and the knife breaking in so the lock works a little bit. But It actually seems to be getting more reliable the more we beat it up. Okay, we'll go out to the war post. We are at the war post, and I am going to be wearing a work glove. This is not a cut resistant glove, but it's thick enough that it should provide some protection. Just because I'm kind of gun shy after the one that failed so badly. This one is doing much better, but I like my fingers just as much as the next guy. Okay, that was cleanly through the handle here. Didn't quite get through, but that might not be the knife. That could just be me. And we got through the handle again. I am just going to the wrong part of the bottle. That's what that problem is. We'll try this way. Okay, that was, matter of fact, those cuts were, that cut was so clean that the water didn't start leaking out until I squeezed it. We'll go for another part of the bottle here. Okay, yeah, I pretty much sliced the bottom off. And all the water's out of it now, but I'll try for a stab. And it did go in there, it just kind of bounced off. So, but you can see where the stab went in. Okay. Let's test the lock again. We have another one. And that was really fortunate I had the gloves on. Sometimes I think there's a specific angle that will make this thing fail. Let's try. Maybe I was just doing it really hard again and I didn't realize it. Yeah, that's what it was. There is just a certain point where I'm swinging too hard, at just the right angle, or something. I don't know what that angle is, and it fails. But had I not had my gloves on, there would have been blood. Okay, let's keep going. Let's do some deliberate thrusting. Okay, we're getting a really good bite here. And the lock is holding, and I do not have the safety engaged. We'll test that in a minute. Boy, I'm good. 2 misses in a row. I'm going to blame the gloves. And this angle. I'm not getting the best angle in the world on this. This way does fine. Found something I have to work on. I'm going to move over this way. I don't know what the deal is on that angle, but I'm not having much luck with it. Okay. I guess it's just I'm glancing off of it. Okay. Now, I just clicked the safety on. Let's try a couple of whacks. Now I'm kind of going for it. Now see, that failed with the safety on, but I was actually putting the entire body behind it. I was stepping back and really throwing this. let's try this the other way. Safety is still on. Yes, and bottom line, guys, and we will do the more spine wax when we get downstairs. The bottom line is on any, it looks like on any this on even on this Luzon, which is a replacement. If you really hit this thing, it's going to fail. But I'm not going to use that as against the knife because I am swinging really hard to get this to fail. Under normal use, that's not going to happen. It's certainly not going to do this repeatedly. Now, I suppose if you were using it like this and you made a mistake and you came up like so, you could hit the spine that way. But the idea of doing it repeatedly and getting enough English and getting enough power to do that, because you're going to be thrusting up with the, you're not going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that. So pointing a whole bunch of thrust, a whole bunch of force on the spine to get it to fail is unlikely. Still not entirely happy with it, but I understand it, and I don't think that this would happen on a triad lock or an axis lock or one of the other fantastical locks out there. Okay, we'll go over here to the bushes, and just for the shits and giggles, we'll see about a vampire deterrent. What do you think? I'm going to save the battery. Let's see how this feather sticks and makes vampire deterrents. I'm just cutting off a stick, but it's springy and doesn't want to cut. All right, there we go. And we'll get this sharp one way or the other. There. That's not a bad vampire deterrent. Not the best knife in the world to do that. Will it feather stick? Yeah, I'm getting some pretty doggone good curls out of this. So, there is that. Alright, we'll go downstairs and I'll give you final thoughts. Okay, folks, it's been through the war post, it's been whacked, it's been re-whacked. We're going to do we're going to do some more wax on it and see what happens. I'm going to try to keep these moderate. I'm not going to do it really hard, but I'm not going to take it easy, and I'm going to try to keep them consistent. Okay, now I'm going to do a hard one and see what happens. Yeah, there is just a limit to how much force you can put on this thing. So there's that. Now I'm going to put the safety on it. And we'll try one really hard. We'll try one good hard one. I'm not going to go like super hard. Okay. So what we have here is a knife that has limitations. The lighter lock has limitations. Now, so here's the caveats, guys. Here's the cover my ass statements. This knife is not designed to take force in that direction. Alright, you're not going to be cutting or chopping with the spine of the blade. You're going to be doing it with the edge. Right? Right? But the lock is there to make sure the blade doesn't go closed on your fingers if things go wrong. Now the chances of you accidentally applying enough force upward on the spine to get this to go closed by accident are extremely remote. I essentially was trying to make this fail, and I had to try pretty doggone hard. The swings that made this thing were, they weren't all my might, but they were good, solid swings. And there were a couple of times, had I not worn those work gloves, I'd be administering first aid to myself again right now. Okay, now the testing, you saw, slice through the water bottle, came very sharp. After the war post, there is no edge damage. The 8CR17 MOV, I believe, steel is actually very good. It all depends on the heat treat, of course, and this seems to have a good heat treat. Now, and I said this with the other one. Now, the first one I had failed under conditions that a knife should not fail. It failed on it where I barely flicked it sideways against a post that was swinging, so it had give. Okay, you're not quite centered here. That's completely unacceptable. And it continued to fail consistently. Now this one failed consistently when I was really giving it shock on solid objects for the most part. So this knife has to be used within specific limitations. If you get one, I suggest that you be very, very, very careful and test it at least 20 times, on a spine whack, and test it hard and keep going harder and harder until you get to the point where the lock fails. And then you'll know what makes the lock fail, how much it takes. If you do that and you get the lock sample limitations, you should be okay with this knife. Now, what it comes down to is, will the Nutty Knife Guy recommend this knife? Reluctantly, I say no. This is the second one I've had, and it still had failure. Now, having said that, I'm only saying I wouldn't recommend it because there are other things, even from the Cold Steel Company, that are comparable in size and capability that had the better triad locking system. Soon the Spartan will come and be reviewed by the Nutty Knife Guy with that triad lock. It's not as big as this one, but I don't think the lock is going to fail. I've tested that one already just since I've had it. I haven't war posted it yet, but it did go through my comparison video where I did a lot of the war post stuff and had no problems whatsoever. I plan on getting a Raja too. Maybe even one of these days when I can find the coin, one of their espadas. Now, do I recommend this knife? I can't recommend the knife. Am I going to tell you not to buy one? No. If you get one, if you like this knife, it will probably serve you, be completely safe, and give you good service. You can see it went through that water bottle so so cleanly that the water didn't leak out until I squeezed it. I actually thought I didn't go through. It went through both sides of that handle in one whack. Right? This thing is a cutting beast. Right? It handles beautifully. And if you realize the limitations of the lock, I would strongly recommend when you're using it to use the safety that's designed to be used with. If you use it within the capabilities of the lock, you will be fine. But you have to understand that the lock is a feature. It is not the be-all end-all of safety features. I don't care what kind of lock it has. I've said this before. I don't care what kind of lock it has. A folding knife is never going to be as strong as a fixed blade. I do plan to carry this as a third defensive knife. I carry 2 personal protection knives. They're both fixed blades. I carry my Kubi folder for daily utility knives. Largely I'm going to be carrying this one and rotating it out with the Spartan just because I want to carry them. I like them. I do like this knife and I want to carry it. But I recognize that it's a folder, and I recognize this is a liner lock. And liner locks are particularly bad at taking force on the spine. So recommend it? No. Tell you not to get one? No. Watch the videos, do other research, make up your own mind. Test it. Find out what its limitations are. Myself, knowing what this is, I'm not going to have any trouble using this as it's been intended. But I will never ever rely on the lock. But then again, I don't rely on the locks on any folding knife. Again, the one that I sent back was completely unacceptable. It effectively had no lock. Sometimes it held, but most of the time even a small force on it made it close. I didn't get it on camera, but at one time I just did this with it on my palm and it went closed. That's unacceptable. The idea that I'm swinging this one with a good follow through on something solid and coming down on it hard, every time I did it really hard, it failed consistently. Moderate force, it held consistently. That's the limitation. And it's not important that you know the lock will fail. What's important is knowing what it takes to make it fail. How far you can push it before it fails. I know that about this knife now. I will use that knife with that knowledge. So I know it sounds like I'm waffling here, but no, I'm not going to sit there and say, buy this knife, it's a great knife. It's the greatest thing since peanut butter and sliced bread. I'm not going to say this is a piece of crap and it's worthless. What I will say, if you like its style, if you like its size, if you just like it, by all means buy it, test it, know its limitations, you'll be fine. However, you can spend pretty much the same amount of money and get even a folding knife that'll do the same jobs and be more reliable, and a lot of those same knives are made by a cold steel. So that's all there is to say about this. This knife is in the, I don't know what you would call it, the make up your own mind category. Used within its limitations, it's a good knife. Not a great knife, but a good knife. Now, next week, weather and other conditions permitting, I'll be bringing you this knife. This is a model number I can't remember, but this is from the Sharp Forest Company. It's Pakistani made, very reminiscent of the Cisco's and the Timberwolves and the Timber Rattlers and those other Pakistani blades. I think this one is just a little bit better overall. D2 steel, but that's for next week. I am at 274 subscribers. At 300 subscribers, there will be another giveaway. I am leaning towards a Schrade Kukri or a Ontario Marine Raider. I am going to put that in the put links to what and maybe something else, but I'm going to go through and pick out some knives that I might want to give away, and probably do just a really short video and ask your guys' advice on what I should give away. But 274, so 300 is coming up. The sooner I get to 300, the faster I will give away, and it would also be another signed copy of my book, the Fate of Nations Fireteam Alpha Book 1. Will also go with whatever knife I decide to give away. And with that, I ask you to remember that you must draw your knives only in just purpose, to sheathe them only with honor, and to remember that without knives, life would be dull and pointless. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're of a mind to. That feeds the almighty YouTube algorithm and helps me grow the channel, and it makes me happy. And I bid you goodbye.